Hello, everyone. If you can see and hear me, please let me know in the chat, and I'll make sure all my tech is working. I'll be doing some Dramamine-inducing, nausea-inducing camera moving in a little bit, so just want to give you a heads up. But I figured, hey, haven't talked to you guys in a while. I haven't done a live stream face-to-face in a while, except for on the Michaels and Derwent classes. So I thought, oh, why not? Let's do that today. Oh boy, we've got some chat happening in the comments. I want to know if you guys did World Watercolor Month and if you enjoyed it. Did you do all 31 prompts? Did you work on some other prompt list or just do your own thing? Did you dip in and out and do just a few of the projects? Let us know. I think that there's this expectation that we have to be perfect and we have to do every single prompt or it doesn't count. I don't think that's the case. I think you should, pop in, do what you can. If you did 5 days and that's 5 more than you would have done otherwise, that's a win. That's great. I get a little obsessed. I love month-long challenges and I will not go to bed until I have my daily challenge done. But, I don't think that that's necessarily good sometimes to be that like a single focused, but it's fun and I really enjoy this challenge. So I'm going to take a quick peek at the chat. Oh, good. Okay, people are seeing and hearing it. Gail says she doesn't like to do challenges. As we go along, I'm going to be going through my World Watercolor Month sketchbook and showing you how I interpreted the prompts and talk about the materials I used and whatnot. And if you have any questions as we're going along, just type the word question in all caps, and then you can type the rest of your question normally. Sometimes if you type everything in all caps, like YouTube just kind of like bumps it out of there. So just put the word question in all caps and that will help me catch it because I'll be like looking at the screen, looking at my sketchbook. It'll be a lot to keep track of. And hopefully that way I won't miss any of your questions. Yeah, I'm excited to hear what you guys think of the whole challenge. Inktober is coming up in October. I feel like that's kind of the that's the marathon. That's the tough one. I feel like World Watercolor Month is a little bit more easygoing. Alicia says, when does this happen? World Watercolor Month is a challenge that's put on by Doodle Wash, and it's every year in July 1st through the 31st. But they do monthly challenges every month anyway. So like if you wanted to do a September challenge, maybe your schedule calms down in September or some other month, you can go and do their daily challenges anytime. They do a new prompt list every single month. So it's a lot of fun if you like to watercolor, and or even if you don't, you just want to get that challenge list. That would be totally fun. Oh, thank you, Sierra. I'm all gussied up because I had an interview with a local news station this morning, and so I'm like, hey, I'm not letting this makeup and hair go to waste. I'm gonna go live and talk to the camera. But it went really well. The story will be up in like a week or two, and I'm going to see if I can get an air check of it so I can put it on my YouTube channel. But they wanted to interview me about the France retreat that's coming up next year. So I'm like, hey, why not? That would be a lot of fun. And plus, I do intend eventually in teaching locally again. So it'd be nice just to kind of have that. Oh, I'm jiggling everything. To have that promotion out there, I guess. Okay, look at that. We've got a lot of people joining us already. We've got 78 hanging out. That is crazy. That's awesome. Just a second, I'm going to move the camera overhead and we'll go through the sketchbook. I want to show you a little project that I've been working on that's been kind of like vexing me today, but I've been talking about this on SatChat for a couple of weeks about doing a DIY sticker video. And it's one of those things where it sounds so simple. It sounds, this is going to be a piece of cake. I'm going to take my paintings. I'm going to scan some of my paintings. I'm going to put them in my computer. I'm going to print them off on sticker paper, and I'm going to cut them out with my scan and cut machine. Everything was so smooth until it came to cutting them out with my scan and cut machine. And like, it was having the darndest time to like get the edges of everything. I probably should have, it looked great on screen, but like the color wasn't as vibrant on the sticker paper. Anyway, I want to try this new vinyl paper that I found, and it's fine. It's okay. I don't think I'm going to go into a sticker making business anytime soon, but there's a little sneak peek of some of my stickers. But And I still have a bunch to cut out. The Scan and Cut was not recognizing the edges. It was so frustrating. But there's a little sneak peek on that project. That will be coming up soon. Yes, Berlina, this is live. Thank you for joining us live. I'm sure I am missing some comments, but let's move the camera overhead. So if you get motion sickness, you just might want to close your eyes for a minute, because I don't have any fancy equipment where I can just do and make the cameras do things magically. I got to do this manually. It's analog here. So if you get motion sick, just close your eyes for a moment, and we'll be overhead. I've got like some a hardware store clamps that that attach my camera to the to this thing. I know this is so sketchy looking, isn't it? There we go. I know. Isn't that like the sketchiest thing ever? Okay. Hey, that's not too bad. Oh, except my camera's going to fall. That's not good. There we go. Okay. My camera didn't have its V8 today. It's awfully crooked. And we'll just get this wire out of the way. All right. We are in business. Move my stickers out of the way. I think they actually look kind of cute. They were just kind of a pain. I'm going to have to do something different. All right. It's not liking all that black. So we're just going to move to page 1. And if you go to worldwatercolormonth.com, you can see the prompt list for last month. And I think I can remember all of the prompts. I didn't write them all down, but I think I remember them. First prompt was sunlit, and I don't look ahead on my prompts, and it didn't occur to me that lemon was actually a prompt later on in the month. But I always loved the look of citrus with light shining through it, so I thought that would be fun to do. And I used watercolor with some colored pencil accents on this. And I use my a lot of these, I use my travel watercolor paint in my portable painter for these. Oh, Diane Anton Studio just commented, "Hi everyone, Charlie from World Watercolor Month just messaged us to say the mug and pouch sales were up 55% this year. So they're super pleased with the amount they raised for the charity." Oh, that's so great. So there was, we all got to put, all of us ambassadors got to put our artwork on pouches and mugs, and then all of the profits went to a Art for Children charity, which is really awesome. Okay, the second, and if you have any questions, like I said, type question in all caps, and then your question, and I will get back to you. I will keep peeking up from time to time to see if I have any. This prompt was diversion, so all I could think of was like making a diversion in a game, and so I grabbed out my chess pieces and just set up a little still life and did a kind of a quick sketch of that with some gel pen highlights there over the watercolor. So most of these they might not be 100% watercolor, but I did try to keep them a good amount of watercolor just to, keep with the challenge. Then day 3 was raspberry, and I have a real-time tutorial for this on my YouTube channel. So if you like the look of that and you'd like to paint along in real time, it is watercolor with colored pencil accents, and you can find that right on my YouTube channel. And this here was for the prompt burst. And I thought, oh, bubbles, like when you blow bubbles. And I had some new metallic watercolors to try out from Viviva. And so I thought this will be ideal. And plus, I always love to draw hands. So any chance I can get like a hand in the scene, that's kind of fun too. So holding this bubble cap wand and blowing the bubbles. And it's got a little metallic, see if I tip it like that, you can see the metallic sheen on that, which was kind of fun. And I just did some like little bursts there. This very awkward looking cat is the prompt startled. And I wanted to have a startled looking cat. And I would say at least half of the cats I've ever drawn look really goofy and awkward. And this is no exception. Got the goofy, awkward look there. But he does kind of look surprised or disgusted that his food bowl is empty. I don't know. It's kind of a one and the same, I guess. This prompt, I think, was either refreshing or lemon. I can't remember, but I wasn't about to draw just a lemon again. And this had been kind of a long day. I just wanted to do something quick and easy. So I did this little cocktail with some fruit in it. I love to draw glass and cocktails and things like that. So That's what I did there. And this was just a little, I want to use up the extra space on this page. And I had gone out painting with my friend Karen. We'd gone to Brooklyn, Maine. And I just did a little warm up right here. And I thought that was kind of a good way to use up that leftover space on my paper. Oh, thank you, Gail. Gail says, OMG, that cat. Wow, Lindsay. Oh, I do appreciate that because I think the cat looks so goofy. And then when I was in Brooklyn painting, there was a bunch of like beach roses and this thistle growing right beside the water. And there was also morning glories, and they were like dipping in and out everywhere. And they were like coming up through like the gravelly sand and just like blooming. They were just taking hold. And it's like nature finds a way. Jeff Goldblum, Jurassic Park. I was just like, nature finds a way. Look at it. Morning glories growing everywhere. And this was another little scene from the what's it called? It's a boat landing in Brooklyn, Maine. A Neskeg boat launch, I think it's called. It's gorgeous, gorgeous out there. If you get a chance to go out there to paint. And this here is actually, if I don't, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to put this in my video description, but if you go to michaels.com/classes and you are in the United States or Canada, you can sign up for this free workshop. It will be on August 15th, and we're gonna paint this with water-soluble graphite. So that's an upcoming, I decided to do that for an upcoming Michaels class. There's a time lapse of this on my channel if you want to kind of get an idea of how it's going to go, but there'll be a real-time class. It'll take an hour over on the Michaels. It will be on Zoom, and then it will be replayed on the Michaels YouTube channel. So if you're not in a location where you can get the where you can take the class, you can catch the replay, which is nice. Sadly, it's done on Zoom, and Zoom, I find the replay quality of Zoom not to be quite as good as like a YouTube live stream, but you know, it's what we have, right? And what was that prompt? I can't, vintage maybe? Mechanism. It was mechanism. That was the prompt. That's what it was. Okay, and I can't remember what prompt I used the landscape for. So I guess I'm not that great about remembering things. This one here, oh boy, you know, this was done on my birthday. I decided I was going to take the time in the middle of the day. I was just going to paint, take as long as I want and do what I want. And this is what I did here, my TBR pile. I have started to make some headways into Jeanette Wall's Hang the Moon. I'm liking that so far. And I'm a little bit into that one, The Last Werewolf. The other ones, though, have not even been cracked. Basically, it's a big old, that bookmark in the middle, big old sham. I'm not anywhere near started that book. So yeah, that's Fantasy Lindsay's book pile. Will it get read? I don't know. And I found the teacup, Georgia Martha Washington teacup in our china cabinet. And I threw that on top of the stack there. But that was done with the Mission Gold Triple Pan set of 48 I had reviewed. I really like those paints. That's really nice. And I've been trying to use different products as I went through the month because, you know, 31 chances, right? Try to get some new stuff going. The tardigrade here was done with my Sennelier watercolors that I put in a tiny little palette. I actually did that during a impromptu craft night. I had some friends over, and I just worked on that. There's very little granulation in here because the Senneliers are very smooth paints. And I don't remember the, I thought I was going to be so good at remembering all these prompts. I don't remember what the prompt was for that. Otherworldly, that's what it was, Otherworldly. And so I did that. And then this one, was it Gemstone or no, it wasn't Valuable. Mineral maybe? I can't remember, but something made me think I should do some rocks or gemstones and Element. That's what it was Element. And so I went into my daughter Lila's room, and she collects crystals, and I grabbed 3 and I did those. And then here, with this leftover space here, the prompt was aubergine, and I didn't want to paint an eggplant. I've painted several eggplants in my life, and I'm like, I don't really feel like doing that. And so instead, I decided to sketch the aubergine Derwent Graphitint pencil, which is one of my favorite colors of the Derwent Graphitint. I did use a little granulating watercolor in the edge, but what I really like is how I took it right to the edge. Let me just grab this. I'll maybe put this under like this. I like it because then you've got this like deckled edge, which is kind of fun. And that goes right out to the edge, so it kind of peeks at you from other pages. And I like stuff like that. It kind of like lets you have a little sneaky peek on what's going on the next page. So this year, I've never done the challenge before where I have had more than one thing on a page, or I've never even stuck to the same sketchbook before. I'm always such a sketchbook floozy, jumping around from book to book, that I've never had like the whole body of work together, which I really like. Um, Gail says, Lindsay, why not write the names of the prompts underneath your paintings? That's a great idea. I did on some of them. I don't know what I was thinking, the other ones. I don't know. Some I did, some I didn't. I guess I was thinking that maybe if I didn't have space, I might want to use the paintings for other things, and I didn't necessarily want the text on there. I think that's what I was, why that was the case. I do it every year too. You think I'd learn. So then this was valuable, and I've got some crud on here. I'm gonna have to go through. And the thing that I don't necessarily like about working on, oh, that came right off. Working on both sides of a sketchbook page is I always think, well, what if I want to what if I really love the piece and I decide I want to frame it? Then I've got something on the back side. But then I'm like, you know what? Framing is a job for fantasy Lindsay, and reality Lindsay is not framing anything. So I'm like, just do it on both sides. It's not that precious. You could paint it again if you wanted to. So, so I decided to use both sides of the sketchbook, and also um, to do multiple layouts on a page, or even let them cross pages. And for this one was recycle up here. And so I did a plastic water bottle, because water is like the ultimate recycled thing, right? It's like the water that we're using now is a water that's always been on this earth, and the water that always will be on this earth. It's just constantly being reused and reused and reused. So that's why I got instead of like going for the most obvious recycle the bottle, no, recycle the water. And then that's why we have fish in the water over there. That's what I was thinking anyway. Oh, Clark Finer. Oh, hi, Angela. She says she loves the collection of paintings. I want to thank Angela Clark for sharing her Daniel Smith gouache, because I bought the mixing set of 3 and then or 4 and then a burnt umber, and then she had all the other colors and gave me half pans of those. Sketchbook floozy. Sketchbook floozy. That should be, we should have a group and call it Sketchbook floozies. I think that would catch on. And then for the spacious, I think spacious was the prompt for this one here. And I did a TARDIS in space, but also spacious because it's bigger on the inside. So all you nerds out there will get where I'm going with that. I do enjoy Doctor Who. I haven't watched it in a while, but I love that concept of something being much bigger on the inside. So, and I count myself among the nerd community, so I'm not giving anybody a hard time. Okay, I don't see. Hey, everyone's loving the sketchbook floozy idea. Okay, patent pending trademark. I need t-shirts. That'll be my first ever merch. Sketchbook floozies. I don't know. And then on day 17, distant was the prompt, and so I decided to take one of the photographs I took when I was out at NASCAG out in Brooklyn, and take one of the photos that I took and paint that, but through like the look of binoculars. And what was happening here when I took this photo, I was trying to get up close to the seagulls, because I was thinking I could really pet one, because there were so many. I figured one would at least one would hang out, but they got scared when I got close to them. But I liked the motion of the flying seagulls. And there was like this little tugboat or something out in the water that was kind of interesting. It was a weird shape. It was kind of very cubey. And then I obviously love the rocks and the moss and the mist. And so I went with that for that prompt. And then for immense, I decided to do this Subway sandwich. When my daughter and I were going out to the beach, and we didn't want to pack a lunch, so we stopped at Subway, because neither of us had a Subway in forever. And I got a veggie delight, and it was a 12-inch sandwich. It was immense. And I painted that while I was sitting on the beach. It was kind of too cold. I did go swimming, but it was pretty cold. It wasn't like, it was supposed to be hotter than it was. And I am kind of like I will swim when it's like in the 80s, 90s. I'm not a 70-degree swimmer. I get way too cold for that. But as I go through, I'm erasing, because, I work on another page, and then you're putting pressure on it, and it like will transfer sometimes media from even if it's just watercolor, it will still transfer some stuff sometimes. This was for the prompt envelope, and I really love that. I love kind of feminine, romantic motifs. And so I had seen a picture of carnations draped over a envelope that was like flipped around the other way, so you didn't see the flap. And then I thought, ooh, let's flip it over and let's put a wax seal. And I had a wax seal that was gold, and I just kind of changed the color and just made a little drippy wax there, and did the little faceted inkwell out of my imagination. And I had a feather, so I used that for kind of an idea. And I was testing the Sennelier Le Petit Aquarelle watercolors, the new version of them, to see if they were still good. I think they're still good. I think they're still the same. And so I wanted to try out that paint, and I like this this sort of motif with all the burgundy and the you know, romantic colors there. All right. Make a sticker, Sketchbook Floozy. Oh, that would be a good sticker, because then people could stick it on their sketchbooks. We could have a whole movement. There's whiskey painters and there's sketchbook floozies. What happens if a whiskey painter gets with a sketchbook floozy? What kind of kids would they have, I wonder? Whiskey floozies? Oh, I don't know. They would probably give their parents a run for their money. And then we have, this one was olive, I think, was the prompt. And I thought, well, I'm going to do a martini because I love the look of a martini. No, I don't love the taste of a martini, but I love the look of one. But then I saw somebody else had already done martini. I try not to look at the artwork before I get a chance to do the prompt, but sometimes you see it and I'm like, oh crap, somebody else did a martini. I can't just do a martini. So I'm like, well, I'll add a club sandwich and stick it all through there. And I'm like, oh, that's very Mad Men. That's very 1960s. We got to have a cigarette. We got to have a 3 martini lunch with a cigarette in the ashtray. Back in the good old days of the 60s. And so that's how that still life came to be. And I was using the Magello Mission Titanium Class gouache on that, which is a hybrid gouache watercolor. And I enjoyed it. It was pretty easy to use. Big shift from what to draw in the background, but a pretty easy to use paint, which was really interesting. Let's see. Terry Pennington is here. I was appalled that my daughter tried to get me to donate all my books rather than move them with me. Oh, you know, yeah. Other people might not know the value of, you know, we all have different values. Don't give up your books unless you want to, for sure. And then the next day, I'm not sure what day that was. I think I did this one next. Risky was the prompt for this one, and I did a stoplight, because whenever I go through a yellow light, I always say Amber Gambler, and now like my daughters say Amber Gambler anytime they go through a yellow light. So that's spreading. That's going to spread as fast as a sketchbook floozies, I think. So the reason I heard of that phrase, I wish I made it up. It's so good. I didn't make it up though. But I had gone through a light, and it was yellow, but then it turned red when I was in the intersection. And I was nervous that I was going to get a ticket like mailed to me, because there's like those cameras on the stoplights. And I think they're just cameras, I think, to tell like the lights when to change. But anyway, I was nervous. And so I Googled, can you get a ticket if you run a red light in Maine? And like from are there cameras there basically. And the article starts off with, so you're an Amber Gambler. And that just like cracked me up, that like every time I go through a yellow light, I'm like Amber Gambler, or anybody else does. That just sticks with me. So that's where the inspiration for this piece came from. And this was Daniel Smith gouache. And I wanted to, I bought the mixing set, which was Pyrrole Red, Hansa Yellow Medium, I believe, and Ultramarine Blue. So it's 3 like neutral to warm leaning primaries plus white. And then I bought a tube of burnt umber. And that's what I did this with. And I wanted to use it really thin down in the background like a watercolor, and then build it up. Really enjoyed using the paint, I have to say. The only issue I had was mixing like that tealy green. I couldn't get a really vibrant green with that. And then up here, I did a color wheel with them. And you can't get a really vibrant purple either because of the Pyrrole Red. And you can't get a really bright green because of the Ultramarine Blue. So I don't think it's the best mixing set, but I do like the colors. I think it's, I actually just got the Holbein mixing set of gouache, and I prefer that one much more, and it's way cheaper. It's like half the price almost. But anyway, then I used that, the Daniel Smith, but it's a mixing set plus the burnt umber for this Oreo cookie. The prompt was fragment. And I thought about doing kind of like a broken mirror or broken glass, but then I'm like, oh, a cookie. That's a little bit. That would be a little bit lighter and fun. And I love the textures, and I decided to go with that because I love to paint food. I find it very fun, and I think it's kind of inspiring. People seem to really enjoy that as well. All right. Next we have, oh, that was local, the prompt local. And so I painted this little ice cream parlor that's in Brewer, Maine called Jimmy's. And we used to take the kids there when they were little. And I didn't have a photo for this, but I went to Google Maps and Google Street View, and I was able to find Jimmy's on the Google Street View, and I used that for my reference, and it worked out really well. And then for this one, soft. It was the prompt was soft, and I love to bake bread. I'm not big on baking or cooking in general, but I do like to make bread. And my son had just gotten me a KitchenAid mixer for my birthday, so I'm like, I've got to give that a try. And so I made some bread, and then I sliced off a couple pieces of it. And so it was soft bread. And then I had some, like the Earth Balance vegan margarine I use was really hard out of the fridge. So you got hard butter on soft bread or hard margarine on soft bread. And then we got the butter knife there. And this I did really quickly because right when I sat down to start it, one of my girlfriends called and she's like, "What are you doing? Let's go out to dinner." I'm like, "Okay, but I got to get this done because I'm an insane person that cannot, once I start a challenge, I can't just, one does not simply stop a challenge." And I knew we'd be out late, and I wouldn't want to leave once I got out there. So I'm like, I want to get this done first. And that's what I did. And I think sometimes when you force yourself to be quick, you actually do a lot better because you're not getting fussy, and you really economize those brush strokes. When you only have half an hour, or you only have a certain amount of time, you're going to make every brush stroke count, and you're not going to fuss and fiddle and futz around with it. You're going to get it done and move on. And I think that's what these challenges are so good for. Laura Dunnings asked, "What's your favorite shade of red to use?" Oh boy, I really like quinacridone red. I also like quinacridone magenta. I like those really clean, neutral to cool leaning reds because they're easier to mix and they don't get muddy. But I do like to have a warm and a cool red on any palette. Kaliana, I hope I pronounced that right, says, "I'm more of a mojito girl than a martini." Yeah, I agree. I would be more of a mojito girl than a martini girl. If you've not tried a melon mojito, please do. It's so delicious in the summer. That sounds delightful. I had a mango mojito at a restaurant in New York last spring. It was really good. Okay, let's see. Oh, here, this was fun. So Angela Clark, who's in the comments, Clark Fine Art, we met up in Dover Foxcroft to go paint a covered bridge. And actually we met at this park that had a covered footbridge, and we painted that. And then we went and took photographs of the covered bridge, and then it started downpouring like crazy. And I had the top down of my convertible and I thought I could outrun it, but I could not. But fun memory. And I really enjoy how that came out. It was really fun. And I think I might want to go back up there and paint the covered bridge in the fall because I bet it's gorgeous. And let me tell you, that big covered bridge in Guilford, if you've ever seen the show Nosferatu on Hulu, you walk in that bridge and it's creepy. It's almost like, man, I'm gonna pop out in some other part of the world or something. If you watch that show, it's like, man, give me a motorcycle. It's so vibey. It's so cool. And then I like this spread. I feel like all of the work on this page really were cohesive and really went together very well. And so for the prompt bell, I did this kind of vintage, rusty looking bell. And actually, my friend Karen came over, and because our pickleball got canceled, my pickleball friend Karen, she's also an artsy friend, but we usually play pickleball, but they'd canceled it because it was like a basketball clinic or something in the school. And so we decided to do our prompt at the time we would have been playing pickleball. And so I did bell. And then for this one, the prompt was detour, and I used the Daniel Smith gouache to do just like a lake, because I'm missing camp on the lake this year. We usually rent a camp for a week, and one year we didn't do it, and I missed it so much because the place that we used to rent sold, and so we found a different camp last year, and it was nice, but it wasn't the same. And Jason's like, "It's because the kids are all grown up, and they're not there the whole time, and it's just different." And it's those times of yesteryear that will never be the same. But anyways, I was feeling like I needed a detour. I needed to find a lake. I needed to find a cabin on a lake that was very secluded. And since I couldn't, I decided to paint one instead. And this tutorial will be on my YouTube channel tomorrow. So if you want to paint along with me, then tune in tomorrow. because it'll be on my YouTube channel. It'll take about a half an hour, little less maybe. Yeah, it's under half an hour. Gouache, you can use watercolors, I reckon. But yeah, easy peasy tutorial there. And then I had a lot of fun with this one here. I've been watching the show Dexter on Showtime, and I never watched it when it first came out. I would catch an episode here or there when my husband was watching it, but the kids were little, and I could not watch any crime shows when the kids were little. It was too disturbing. But now that they're grown up, I'm like, oh yeah, bring on the crime. I'll watch it. And not all of it. I can't watch like the CSIs or anything, but Dexter's a little quirky. And so the prompt was spatter, and I spatter everything. So it would just be a lame cop out for me just to spatter something in a watercolor painting, because I do that all the time anyway. So I'm like, what about blood spatter? And then I had seen an episode of Dexter where they took yarn and he was like mapping out the spatter pattern. And I thought, that is so crafty. Oh my gosh. It's like, we're the same. He's just like me. So except I'm not a serial killer or a forensic expert, but I knit occasionally. So I made the little yarn thing, and then I'm like, oh, I remembered these books I used to love. It was these scrapbooking mysteries that took place in New Orleans at a scrapbook shop, and they were such fun books, and they're by Laura Child. So if you've never read them before, they're a lot of fun, great summer reads. I highly recommend. And I'm like, I wonder if they do knitting mysteries, murder mysteries, and they do. So I found a book. It was called Death by Cashmere. So that's what's on the top of the stack. And then Frill Kill by Laurel Childs, and then Jeff Lindsay's Dexter series. The Dexter books are really good too. So I just kind of went crazy with the spatter. I wanted to be a little bit lighthearted for a murder scene, because I feel like my brand is very family friendly, lighthearted, bright and sunny, and so I didn't want anyone to be looking at my work being like, oh my gosh, does she need help? Is this a cry for help, Lindsay? So I wanted to keep it kind of funny rather than like a serious, but I did want to go shift in an unexpected direction, basically, and I hopefully achieved that with that project. It was a lot of fun. It was all imagination, all for my imagination, and I like that. I do a lot more from my imagination on the monthly prompts than a typical tutorial, so that was kind of fun. And I didn't film most of these, so it was definitely kind of just kind of pleasing myself with these paintings. And oh, somebody said a commercial just interrupted. Well, my goodness. So I wonder if you guys are a few seconds behind me now. That's interesting. Hopefully it didn't cut out. You guys will have to let me know if the picture cut out or anything when the commercial went up. That's interesting. I did see that was a setting. Oh, so Gail, you didn't stay with the ad, so you must have been able to catch right back up. So that's interesting. It did cut a little. If you guys missed me talking about anything, let me know. I would think it would give you like it would give you a warning. Oh, okay. Okay, it looks like you guys might be just like a few seconds behind. So that's that'll be fine as long as it's there and you can rewind it. Okay, cool. They don't think they lost anything. Okay, so for this one here, the prompt was time, and I'd already done a pocket watch because the prompt valuable. I decided to do a pocket watch because time is our most valuable resource. It's our only finite resource. You can always make more money. You can always get more of this or that, but you can't get more time. Once time is gone, it's gone. And so for time, I didn't want to do another pocket watch. So I decided I would do Big Ben. But as I was doing, plus I want to practice my architectural sketching, kind of like urban sketching, loose sketching of buildings, because I want to do some urban sketching out and about, and I want to get a little more comfortable with it. And so I did an ink and wash here. This tutorial is in Critique Club right now. If you're a member, you can check that out. I'll have a time lapse on YouTube soon. If you're not a member of Critique Club and would like to be, just go to lindsayweirich.teachable.com. There's a link in the video description. Click on Critique Club and you can check it out. So this was a lot of fun. I spent most of the time just doing the pen and ink, and then I added the background colors, and then I flicked on Schmincke Aqua Bronze, and I really love the effect that I got there. I don't know if I can get it to catch the light, but I'll try. I just love that kind of ethereal Milky Way type of stars that I got with the aqua bronze. I only have gold and copper. I should probably get the silver or aluminum or whatever that is, because I think that would be really handy as well. And because it was looking so spooky, I put a big moon and some bats and stuff, and I was sketching it. And I like the way it came out. And the watercolors I used were the Paul Rubens. They're the Chaumet watercolors. They came out. They were on Amazon for like a minute before they sold out. And so I will have a review on those, and I'll post the review when they're available again. But they seem to be very similar to the Pretty Excellent, and some of the colors in the Chaumet set are the same numbers as the Pretty Excellent set, and those colors do seem to swatch out the same. But there are a lot of different colors that aren't in the Pretty Excellent set. So it might be worthwhile if you love the Pretty Excellent and you want to expand the range a bit. They're more expensive than Pretty Excellent. They're about $25 for 24 colors versus $20 for 36 colors. So I think you're paying for that, the packaging. The palette is kind of quirky and unique, and I think it's probably what you're paying for there. Let's see. Linda Lauren says, "Hey, Lindsay, have not been doing much of anything. I've been sick with a headache." Oh, that's too bad. But she's looking forward to what we've been up to. Great. Well, here it is. Here it is. I haven't seen any questions per se yet. Okay. Moving along, we're almost to the end of the month here. This one here was for the prompt whistle. So I didn't want to do just a whistle. I try not to take the most obvious choice. And then I was thinking, oh, what about Lauren Bacall, right? You do know how to whistle, don't you? And so I'm like, yeah, I'll do a portrait of Lauren Bacall. And I don't know if you can see the likeness or not, but I was thinking I might do something in this background, maybe do some stenciling, I don't know. I just feel like maybe you should have more, but then again, also, I rarely go back and fuss with an old painting. And then this last prompt was impulse, and I impulsively pick things up off the ground, especially feathers. And so I decided to do this as that prompt. And I used the Holbein gouache mixing set of 5 for this. And it's like a magenta, cyan, yellow, black, and white. And I was able to get a lot of really great tones with that. So I feel like Holbein understood the assignment on what a mixing set should be, and Daniel Smith did not. The Holbein mixing set was $25 versus the $40 I paid for 4 tubes of Daniel Smith. And I just feel like it's much more well-rounded. But together, those 2 sets are going to be great, I think, because then you'll have a warm and cool primary. Oh, and I'll show you this other little thing. This isn't part of the month, but this morning I was interviewed for a local TV news station, and so they needed some footage of painting. So I just grabbed a set of watercolors in like 5 minutes. I'm just like splashing and painting and stuff so they can have a little B-roll. And there was that, which I'll probably go through with a pen and maybe try to make a little order out of this chaos. But I thought it would be kind of funny because, those World Watercolor projects take some time. A lot of times I'm spending an hour or more on them. And if you only have 15 minutes to do your prompt and you're comparing it with someone that spent 2 hours on a project, it's not fair. And I just wanted to see, so you could see what a quick sketch looks like. But yeah, so that was my World Watercolor Month. I'm just going to throw my stickers on there just to have something different to look at. And I'm going to turn the camera around. So if you get queasy, then I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for about 10 seconds, 15 seconds while I move the camera, and then I'm going to answer some questions. So if you have questions, type the word question in all caps in the chat, and I will answer them. And I will look at your face. Well, I won't look at your face. You can look at my face. I can't really see your faces. Hello. Awkward. Changing the camera. There we go. There. Oh, now my nose is going to start running. No, it is. I should grab a tissue. I'm going to grab a tissue. There we go. Got my 1940s polka dot sending my man off to war dress on. That's what my husband calls it. All right. World War II here. Okay, I'm going to scroll back. I think I had a question. And if I missed your question, if you posted it a while back, just post it again. And that is good because I will see it. Oh, thank you, Gail. Gail says, OMG, Lindsay, what you can do in just a couple minutes. Wow. Sheila Landry, and Sheila Landry is a very talented designer. She has a toll painting website, tollpaintingdesigns.com, I believe is the website name. Lindsay, question, is there a difference between the white gouache and white watercolor? For example, M. Graham has both. Yes, there is. White gouache is going to be much more opaque than white watercolor. The difference between gouache and watercolor isn't necessarily that they've added white to the same pigments that they use in watercolor. They're often grinding the pigments more coarsely. They're grinding them so less light can go through. Whereas watercolor, you want that luminance, you want the light to, so you have your watercolor paper, you have that thin veil of watercolor, the light can come down, pass through your level of watercolor, your layer of watercolor, bounce off the paper and reflect back up through the watercolor. So that's why watercolor paint is so luminous and why you want really transparent watercolor. But with gouache, you want a good gouache will just be a heavier pigment load, but the pigment will be more coarse. So the light comes down, hits the surface of the gouache, that velvet surface of the gouache, and bounces off the surface of the gouache. It doesn't go through the gouache and off onto the paper. And gouache does not use as much binder. That's why it's more velvety. It doesn't have that, it shouldn't have a shine to it. It should be very matte and velvety. And that is why it reproduces so well. That's why you can scan your gouache paintings. And that's why gouache was used predominantly for magazine illustrations, because it was much quicker than oils. You could get a very similar effect to oils, but it would photograph so well. You didn't have the reflection to worry about. And gouache wasn't light fast until recently, because it didn't need to be. It just needed to be photographed, and then it would be put in a drawer. And if light's not getting to it, it wouldn't be a problem. But now that people really love gouache because it's such a wonderful medium to use, now you can find companies making light fast versions. And that's really, I think, the biggest difference between the cheaper student grade gouache and the higher end gouache is the light fast pigments. On your cheaper gouache, like the school grade gouache, even some that's fantastic, like the Anagani gouache is my pick for a budget gouache. That paint is fantastic, but it's probably going to fade. It probably has like food grade and cosmetic grade pigments, which don't need to last. They don't need to be light fast. Like, cosmetic grade pigments, my lipstick, if I were to paint with my lipstick, it probably would fade in a month. But I'm not going to wear the same lipstick on my face for a month, right? This is going to be on for a day. It just needs to not fade for a day or however many hours I can keep it on my face before I smudge it off. So, and same thing with food grade stuff. A lot of times the budget and student grade products use a food grade pigment or food grade dye because they need it to be non-toxic, so that if kids use it, then you don't have to worry about them getting sick, and they don't have to worry about printing cautionary labels, and they can keep the non-toxic rating and stuff. So that's your big difference between student grade and professional grade gouache. And then then you got the difference between watercolor and gouache, meaning watercolor having more binder, being more transparent, more finely milled pigments so that the light can pass through it. It's just a different, a very related product, but just a different outcome by using basically the same source materials, just different amounts of them and processing them differently. Okay, do we have any other question? Yes, and white gouache is going to be much more opaque than white watercolor because of the coarseness of the pigment. All right, is there no other questions? Oh, let's see. Oh, I found some more questions. Here we go. Oh, then titanium versus zinc. Titanium white is PW6. That's going to be more opaque than zinc white. I think zinc might be PW4. It's more of a mixing white. It's more translucent. So like if you were like you're painting with oils and you're trying to mix like a portrait skin tone, you might want to use the zinc because it's not going to bleach out the colors as much. And it's still going to retain some translucency. So it just depends on what you like. Like I have a white acrylic I like. It's called Blockout White, and that is like super duper opaque. And I love that for when I need to cover up something or I want to block something out, but it's not going to be great for everything because if I mix with it, it just flattens out and deadens out the other color because it's so opaque and so matte. So, there's different whites for different reasons. Linda asks, how many pens do you take with you traveling in plein air? Maybe 3. My favorite thickness is a 0.03 micron. But then if I'm working on a coarse watercolor paper, I like a 0.5 or a 0.8. Is it 0.0 or point? I gotta look at my pens now because I'm like, is it 0.0 or is it 0.5? Yeah, so like a 0.5 or a 0.8 if I'm going to use a coarse paper like Arches watercolor, and I'll kind of use it at an angle so that I'm just kind of getting the corner of the nib, because I find that the finer pens get worn down on watercolor paper. But if I'm working on mixed media paper or sketchbook paper, I love a 0.3. I generally don't go much smaller than that. Sometimes I will, but I'd like to keep it simple. So for me, if I could only have one pen, it would be a 0.3 micron, or it doesn't have to be Micron brand, but any of those waterproof pens. Derwent line makers are really nice too. Those are available open stock and in packages at most of your big box craft stores. Okay. Unrelated question. Have you tried Roman Small watercolors? I have like 2 pans of Roman Smalls watercolors. They are lovely, but the only place I know to buy them is Jackson's. And the one time I tried to order from Jackson's, it wouldn't let me put in my payment information, and I don't know why. I think it might have been because I was trying to order some large sheets of Milford. Was it Milford? Milford paper, because I want to try Milford paper because it's supposed to be like the Whatman watercolor paper. I think it's Whatman, which was a paper that was really big in like the 70s, super heavily sized watercolor paper. It would give you really interesting granulating effects and textured effects with your paint. And the only place I could find it was Jackson's, but I think that's why it wouldn't let me cash out. Or maybe I had something in my cart that had like a restriction against being sold to America. I don't know, but so I have not used any others in those 2 colors, and they're kind of specialty weird colors. So I don't know. I like them. I think they were lovely, but I don't know if I could, I couldn't really make a review on those 2 colors. Laura asks, what lead do you recommend sketching under a watercolor painting? I always have to erase mine. There is another thing I'm not fussy about. I tend to use a soft lead and a light touch so that it erases easily. But honestly, I'm often just using a Bic mechanical pencil that I have in my I get like, because they're just around. I'll buy like a big case of them, but like for the kids back to school, and then I just always have them around. But I also like, yeah, any mechanical pencils, an HB mechanical pencil, because I'm generally just doing a really light line. The soft pencil is easier to erase. It doesn't dent my paper when I'm sketching with it. So that's generally what I use. It's not fancy. And plus mechanical pencil, so I don't have to sharpen it or carry a sharpener. I think I probably prefer the 0.7. Just because it doesn't tend to break on me, and it gives me a nice soft dark line. 0.3, I can't seem to keep a 0.3 lead from breaking on me. 0.5 is decent, but I like the 0.7 line, but I even use a 0.9 sometimes. I like a hardy line when I'm sketching, but that's what I go for. And the soft lead of an HB is just easy to erase. Oh, yes. Somebody posted the username is asterisk, the little symbol, had a great explanation. Zeke white is more warm and not very opaque. Titanium white is bright, cooler, and more opaque. Yeah, titanium white definitely is cool. And Lee Art asks, how do you select paint and the subject to match? That's kind of hard to put into words, because I kind of just it's kind of like a vibe. It's like, what do I feel like? Oh, I collect watercolor palettes, especially travel watercolor palettes, and I kind of think of them as old friends. And I'll be like, oh, I'm going to paint this. Let's see, what would be a good. Well, it's almost like, okay, I want to go shopping today, or I want to go to the movies, or I want to go out to lunch. What friend do I want to invite? Because you're just in the mood for a certain person sometimes. And that's kind of how I am with my watercolors. It's like, I'm in a mood for my tiny little fiddly Etcher mini ceramic palette, and that's what I did the raspberry with. Or I might be in the mood for something like big and juicy and wild, or I might be in the mood for something a little bit softer, or something granulating, or something textured. That's how I decide. Sometimes on the subject, though, if I'm painting something that I know I'm going to want to layer, or I want to be able to have kind of an undo button, then I'll go with the gouache, because I know that if I mess it up, I can paint right over it because it's opaque. Or I'll go with something that I know will take colored pencil on top. If I know that I'm kind of drawing as I paint, I'm not doing much of a sketch beforehand, I'm just charging in with a brush, then I might want something that I can refine a little bit and be able to put pencil or pen over easily. But a lot of it's just kind of like, what haven't I used in a while? What do I feel like bringing out. It's kind of like, I feel like calling a friend. Who do I feel like talking to today? And it's that same kind of feeling, not to give inanimate objects a personality or anything, but I do feel like watercolors especially have a personality. I feel like with like gouache even, it's almost um, it's almost fungible. It's almost like I could in acrylics, they're almost fungible. I could exchange this brand for that brand. It doesn't really matter to me. Oil paint, same way. It doesn't really matter that much as long as they're decent quality. Watercolors, I feel, have a little bit more individual characteristics between brand and have a little bit more of a personality to it. And especially the palettes, what colors are together in a palette. It's like, this one's very ooh la la, and that one's very like dour, and that one's very moody, and that one's very sassy. It's like, who's gonna paint with me today? And that's how I choose my my medium. Oh, let's see. What else do we have? Let's see. Katiana says, I know some creators say you ought not to use white watercolor because white is the paper, but I love using it to get lovely shades of pastels. That's a personal choice. I was trained in the don't use white camp, and I didn't use white for a long time. And I think it's not a bad training to learn to use the white of the paper. That's definitely a great way to learn how to paint because you're more creative when you give yourselves limitations. But if you're doing it just for the sake of doing it, then I think you might have hit that point where you might be ready to branch out. I'm not going to tell anybody how to live their life and whether to use white paint or not. I find that because a lot of times I am kind of cramped for time, you can paint a lot faster if you're willing to use white paint. Reserving those whites can take a lot longer. The results are beautiful, but what's the aesthetic you're going for? How do you like to create? For me, the process is really important as well as the final outcome, but I love the process of it and I want to be enjoying the process of it. And there's a lot of things you can't do if you're needing to reserve that white, and there's so much planning and so much structure that you need to put down beforehand, which is good. It's a good way to learn and a way to be, but sometimes it's not as fun as just charging in there. And I like to just leap in and go and just, get my paint on and just have fun with it. So it really depends on your personality. Do what you want to do. It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to, learn those classical techniques. But I mean, John Singer Sargent used white. Are we saying we're better than John Singer Sargent? I'm not going to say that. Use white if you want to. You do you. Wandering Star says, don't forget to thumb up the live. Yes, please hit the thumbs up button. That is hopefully going to help this video get seen after the live stream's done. I don't know if live streams do well anymore on YouTube. I don't live stream that often, or if they just get kind of buried, because I know they're on like a different tab now. When you go to somebody's channel page, like the lives are on a different tab and the shorts are on a different tab. And if I go to somebody's channel, I don't think to look on the live stream tab. I just look at videos. And I'm sure I'm missing, but it doesn't occur to me to like look and see what's on the live stream tab. So I think they kind of get buried. So hopefully doing thumbs up, maybe leaving a comment afterwards would help it reach more people. Let's see. I might, you know what? I think I am behind here. Let's see. I just saw a question. Where did it go? Oh my gosh, I'm failing at live streams here. Where did it go? I just saw it. There we go. Okay. Pat Kelly says, question, you use so many different types of media. Which is your favorite? I love mixed media, which is a cop-out answer, but probably watercolor. If I had to pick one, like Desert Island, you can have one type of paint. That would be watercolor. Absolutely. Rebecca says you can get Milford paper on Art Miranda, which I think is a Spanish website. That is good to know. I'll have to check and see and compare. A lot of Jackson's fans. I really should. I've got a credit over there. I really should make an order. Another recommendation for Art Miranda. Thank you, 123 Titanic. Your works are excellent. I appreciate that. Penny Cormier says, speaking of specialty colors, now that brown gold cars are popular again, what are the chances that quinacridone gold being made with the old pigment? That's a pretty good chance if they're using the same pigments for the cars. Yeah, with the synthetic pigments, when the demand decreases in the automotive, appliance, and plastics industry, then we lose our art paint because we're not big enough to command factories to start making pigments. We got to kind of deal with the dregs and use what's left. So yeah, if those gold cars come back, we can get our quinacridone gold again, probably. All right, let's see. I'm skimming, guys. If I miss your question, please repost, but do put question in all caps. Let's see. Debbie says, hello from the hot Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago. How are you, Lindsay, and the watercolor enabler? Have you ever come across or used Sci Art Gallery handmade metallic paints? I have not. I feel like I have more metallic paints than I will ever use up in my lifetime. And I feel like a lot of them are mediocre. I have some that I really love. The metallic paints that I love the most, actually the Paul Rubens metallics. I find they have a nice some of the colors have a real good glitter spark to them, and others are just like really pigmented pearl. And I'm really happy with those. I mean, there are others that are decent, but those I feel like have my top spot. I have not used the Coloria or Fintech or FinTech, whatever that brand is. And I hear those are like excellent. Those are also really expensive. And I'm just so happy with Paul Rubens ones that I haven't like really looked to buy them. And I have so much. There are some nice ones too by ArtX, but they're kind of pricey for what they are, but they do have really big pans. So if you're using really big brushes, they might be the option for you. But no, I haven't tried the Sci Art once because I have seen some reviews on that paint and it doesn't look all that promising. It looks like it's kind of air quote handmade. I don't think it's really handmade. I think it's kind of just I think it's a mass produced to look handmade, but you know, obviously I haven't used them myself. I can't really speak on that, but there are reviews out there from reviewers that I trust. I think Becca Hilburn on the Natto Soup channel has reviewed them. I would trust her reviews. But definitely search out a few and see what they say. I don't think I'm going to buy those just because it does seem to be kind of like a faux handmade type situation. Oh, we got recommendations for Roman Small. This is what I love about the chat, because if somebody asks about something that I haven't used, somebody else will have used it and will mention it. So if anybody else has used the Sci Art and wants to weigh in, then please do, because I haven't used them. I'm really kind of speaking out of my butt here for that one. Julie Brown she loves the cheap disposable mechanical pencils since I learned from you and I wouldn't use anything else. Yeah, those are great. Or even like the refillable, like I have some of the Faber-Castell ones and I get the refills from the Dollar Tree, and they have like the little packs of lead. They work fine. I can't tell the difference between any of the leads. Maybe I'm just not very couth. I don't know, not discriminating with pencil leads, I guess. I did spend a lot of money on a lot of money for pencils on those Faber-Castell like matte black pencils, and I was so disappointed in them. I was just like, these are not where it's at. I'm not enjoying these. I need to take them out again, use them on some different paper, but I was just kind of disgusted that I bought them because I love to draw and I don't love the glare if I'm doing a tutorial, and I thought these are gonna save the day. I'm gonna love these. They don't blend very well, and they were just kind of like, they were not it. I was not happy with them. Moody, the artist, asks, do you have any interest in acrylic gouache, matte acrylic? I have used acrylic gouache. I like it, but honestly, I would rather just use gouache because it's rewettable. It's a much more into stuff that can be blended after it dries, and traditional gouache will do that. I have used the Turner acrylic gouache and the Jo Sonja's acrylic gouache, and I like them both. I think I like the Turner a little bit more, and it's very affordable. I preferred it better to like a standard acrylic because it doesn't look plasticky when it dries. But when I feel like using acrylics, I'm going for the Golden Open these days because they're more like oils, so that they're not going to be the best for everybody. Not everyone's going to like them. Unless I'm doing a craft project or I'm base coating something, then I'll just use whatever. But yeah, I like them, but not as much as regular gouache. And I feel like I don't waste as much with regular gouache versus a acrylic gouache. It's personal preference. It's nothing wrong with them. I don't have anything against them, but I feel like my time is precious when you have time to paint. And if I get interrupted or I have to shift gears and go do something else, and I have a palette full of paint, I can re-wet the regular gouache and reuse it. It doesn't go to waste. So, and less plastic, you know, too, in the environment. I agree, Sheila. Anything we use to make our art is fine, and use what you want. Absolutely. Lear says, lol, I'm sure your inner discussion with your art supplies is rather animated. It is. It is. I just got to keep it inside. People are gonna have me committed. Any chance, Penny Cormier asks, any chance you can make a demo with gouache just using the mixing set and the burnt sienna rather than the huge sample set? That would encourage more beginners to try it. Yes, I have a couple videos. I have the Amber Gambler time lapse will be coming out, and that just uses the mixing set and the brown. So check that out. And I have other gouache tutorials on my YouTube channel. Just go to my channel page, and they've added so many more little tabs. You have to scroll over to find the magnifying glass, and you click on that, and then you could type in gouache, and then that'd be searching my channel for gouache, or you could search just on YouTube anywhere, The Frugal Crafter and gouache, and get those videos. Yeah, I think that's what the reason why I like the jelly gouache so much is that I just lift the lid off the entire palette, and it's ready to go. So when I'm using tubes of gouache, I prefer to have a very small palette because I don't want to fuss with 10 tubes of paint. I want to fuss with maybe 4 or 5. So I find that much more manageable than having a ton of colors. The stream painting will use some of the other colors that Angela gave me because I wanted to make sure I got a chance to use those to review them a little, you know, in a painting. It's swatching is not enough to do a review on. Oh my goodness, I'm behind again, guys. Please make sure you type question because it's really hard to find the questions if I don't see that. A. Brown asks, I watched your business side of teaching arts and crafts, and they have been helpful and inspiring. Do you have plans for any new videos or workshops for us? Okay, she's referring to a art marketing series I used to do on YouTube. And I haven't planned on any more of those videos, mainly because for what I do for the business side of my art, it's just so specialized now and so customized to what I do. I don't know if it would be general information, and also things have changed so much. So I don't necessarily have any more of those videos planned. They weren't very popular on my channel, so that's another thing too. It's like when you release too many videos that don't get very many views, then YouTube is less likely to recommend your other videos that you have coming out. So it is kind of a little bit of a balancing act. I have to plan on YouTube, but maybe I'll do a class on it or something. But I don't know. I think once the longer you're in our business, the more specialized you get and the less general your advice would be. So I would still stand by all those older videos, but I think you probably have to kind of make your own way after a while, figure out what niche you're going to go into, and then expand with your skill set, I guess. I'll think about it, but I don't have any plans to do that, to do any more of those. Oh, somebody said the Finetech and Calero are not that expensive. Oh, that's good to know. Oh, somebody says they think Calero and Finetech are two different companies. Calero comes in round pans, Finetech in square. I don't know. I heard they were the same, just like different names for different markets, but I'm not sure. Will you do Artria's Arts custom art stationery card sets asks, will you be doing a tutorial on the Ohuhu wide marker soon, hopefully? I will try to. I generally use the wides for background, so I did a couple paintings just with the wide markers, and I showed them in the review that I did for the Ohuhu wide markers, but I think their best use is using them for backgrounds or larger areas. But you know what? Inktober's coming up in October, so I probably will do something with those, and I will make a point to film it if I do. Lee Art says, do you have any recommendations for slow drying acrylics? Yes, golden open acrylics. They are better than using acrylics with like a slow dry medium or a retarder. They are fantastic. I recommend looking at Blick and also Amazon if you're in the United States, because often Blick will have, if you're buying individual tubes, Blick all the way is way better priced. If you're looking at sets, I would look both places, but Blick is usually as good as Amazon, if not cheaper, way cheaper on any individual tubes that you're going to want. But I would absolutely, hands down, recommend the Golden Open above any other paints. I don't know of any other slow drying acrylics on their own without having to add something to them, but the Opens are great. They're like oil paints. Question, whenever I, this is, whoops, oh goodness, I lost it. Okay. Greckerstery, I'm probably butchering that, says, whenever I plein air paint, I don't use my cobalt cadmiums because I'm worried about dumping the paint water in the woods. Am I being too cautious? Well, it's not a bad idea. Honestly, it really is not a bad idea. But if you're watercolor painting, it's probably a very minuscule amount that would be getting into the environment. And there are certain minerals present in the environment anyway. But I think for a plein air set, it probably is a good practice not to have any cobalts or cadmiums in your paint water, just in your paint palette, just to be safe, or not to use those colors when you can't dispose of your paint water like down the sink or whatnot. But I don't think it's as big of a deal as a lot of people make it out to be. But it doesn't hurt to find an alternative, I guess, for painting in plein air. I would be more concerned with if you're painting with acrylics or something where you've got where there's like going to be a lot more sediment on your brush. Most of your paint's going to be on the paper with watercolor. You might have a little bit you're rinsing out of your brush, but it's not that much. I would try to pour it, if you are going to pour it, like questionable paint water. Well, if your paint water is questionable, you can always bring a bottle and pour it into a bottle and take it home with you. But if you're like out there and you're like, oh, I don't know if that was a cobalt teal or if that was something else, or just like a cerulean blue hue, if you weren't sure, then if you can find like a kind of like a gravelly area, or like a gravelly path area and a gravelly path or something where animals probably aren't going to be drinking or anything like that. Obviously, I think a lot of the cadmium cobalt stuff is a little overblown, honestly. I mean, don't come at me, but I think a lot of it is really blown out of proportion. I think some of it is becoming blown out of proportion because there's a lot of cadmium free paints that are coming out there. They're being charged as much as the cadmium paints, and I think that I'm kind of jaded, and I think a lot of things that come out as being, ooh, that's dangerous, ooh, that's this, that's that, is kind of marketing. I don't think I think you're more likely to run into problems taking too much Tylenol or ibuprofen, drinking too much soda, dumping out a soda. I think you're probably doing as much with that than a little bit of paint water, to be honest. But you do whatever feels right for you. You got to live your life, guys. I can't tell you how to live your life. I bought Turner acrylic gouache after your review and love them. Glad to hear it, Susan. The Thrifty Apprentice says, by the way, Lindsay, those cell phone watercolor palettes, Superior have been popping up on Temu, just in case any of you have been asking about them. I saw them this morning. So just referring to the watercolor palette sets that look like a cell phone. They fold out and they have all the really thin plastic fans. They were all over Amazon, and then they weren't, and I guess now they're on Temu. I haven't shopped on Temu myself. Again, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. I'm a little skeptical, but hey, I'm not going to tell anybody else what to do. You gotta do your own thing. Oh, let's see. Katia says, if you're super interested in the weird fine text story and how it's the same but not as Calero, you can search Kay Warner Fine Tech on YouTube, and she explains. Oh, okay, yeah, she's a good resource. She's a card maker that does lots of interesting videos and watercolor stuff too. Oh, and if you're just joining us and you want to see the World Watercolor Month sketchbook flip through, just back it up. It's we did that first, and now we're just doing Q&A. So that's what we're gonna do until you guys stop asking questions, and then we'll wrap it up, I guess. I'm starting at the most recent working back now because I completely lost my space. Wandering Star says, "What's the difference between opaque watercolors and gouache?" There really isn't any difference, but I noticed there's a lot of companies coming out with opaque watercolors that are really more of a hybrid, kind of in between watercolor and gouache. So they might have a little bit of shine to them if you use them really thickly, or they may have they may dry down in your watercolor palette better and not crack so much. So they're just kind of like in between, but I mean, essentially gouache is an opaque watercolor. Danny Ben asks, any suggestions for a beginner gouache user? Should I start with a few colors in tubes or buy a small basic set? I appreciate. I have two suggestions. Depending on how much you like to mix colors. If you love to mix colors and you want a very minimal set, I would say the Holbein set of 5. Amazon has it for $25. You can't beat it. But you got to be ready to mix colors because it is like your printer ink colors, basically. You're going to be mixing from true primaries. But if you don't want to mix color and you're kind of, you're worried about the paint being too precious and you're not going to, if you're too afraid to use your stuff because you're afraid of using it up, go for the Anagani set of 56 gouache. It's $40. So it's the same price as 4 little tubes of Daniel Smith mixing set. It's $40. You will have more paint than you know what to do with. You will definitely be able to put tons and tons of paint miles in, and then you could upgrade to the tubes, the colors that you use a lot. So I have 2 pieces of recommendation there, depending on what you like. Daniel Smith gouache is great quality. I don't like that they don't have a cool primary blue though. That's a little upsetting, but I think the Holbein did a much better job with their mixing palette, and it's very affordable. So either way. Ethel LeBlanc says, what are your top 3 watercolor brands? Oh, I don't think I can. Let's see. M. Graham, definitely number 1. Oh, there's so many good ones. How am I supposed to pick? I like Mission Gold a lot, and I actually like Shinhan PWC a lot. I like too many. I have a whole rating my artist grade watercolor videos that I put out a couple months ago. Check that out. Then you can get down in the weeds and get all the nitty gritty about them. But I like too many. M. Graham's my favorite, but I think a lot of that is nostalgia. So I don't know. I think once you get into like the professional range of paints from any brand, they're all going to be very comparable, and you just got to go for what you like the properties of. Maybe you like a color that's more layerable and transparent. Maybe you like something with more personality and granulation. I can't, I don't know. It depends on the mood that I'm in. Junior M asks, about Critique Club, what mediums do you use for these tutorials? What is the cost? Critique Club there's 2 different ways you can do Critique Club. It's a $5 a month membership group, and you get 2 new tutorials every month and a new prompt, and you have access to all the past tutorials as long as you're a member. The other way would be to wait for the year to come out and then buy the archives. Like I have an archive for the first 4 years, and I have a bundle of all of those years together. So you can buy just the year you want. You can buy the bundle of all 4 years. You can, do that. If you want to pay once and have them forever, then buy the archives. If you want to just go month to month at a low monthly fee, do the membership. And generally I use mixed media, which is kind of like a broad term, but it's usually I'm using like watercolor, colored pencils, gouache. Occasionally I'll do oils. Occasionally I'll do sketching. If you go to the Critique Club sales page, you can look at all of the lessons that have been posted over the last 4.5 years, and you can get a good idea of what the mediums are. You can look at each of the year archives and see like a thumbnail of all the paintings that I did that year and see if it's a media that you like. But I use a lot of watercolor and a lot of mixed media. So a lot of times it's watercolor as the base with stuff over it. So it's kind of a buffet of art medias and art supplies. I don't know many people that do every single project. The projects are there for your inspiration. Some people they'll join so that they can upload their work for feedback. You're allowed to put 2 original artworks up per month for feedback from me if you want a second opinion on something. It's kind of an all encompassing, nice, inspirational group like that. So it's $5 a month. Bianca says, are the paintings done based on monthly or daily prompts, and where do you find the prompts? The prompts for World Watercolor Month were at worldwatercolormonth.com or doodlewash.com or all over their social media pages. They put out a new prompt list every month, but World Watercolor Month is July, so I do the July, and then in October I do Inktober, and that's you can go to inktober.com and see those prompts when they come out for October. So those are the two that I do, but there are always art challenges happening all over the internet. That just search art challenge, you can find them. Andrea asks, what pen did you use on the Big Ben piece? I used a few. I mostly used, I think, a 0.5 Spectrum Noir art liner, but I used a couple different brands. So I think I actually ran one out, but they all work well together. As long as they're waterproof micron style pens, they work really well. Okay, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom because I think I am caught up. So if last minute questions, go ahead and put them in there if you have them. And I'm going to wrap this live stream up here. Susan Fontaine says, question, please say and spell the name of the gouache 40 set. Thanks. It's I think it's actually a 56 set, and it's Annigoni, Annigonni, I believe. I know I've used it, and I recommended it in my 30 Days to Better Painting class. That's the one I recommended, and it should be on my my YouTube, Amazon recommendations page. If you click that in the video description, if not, I'll check after the live stream and make sure it's on there. But it's Annigoni is what it says on top of the lid. It's a big white box, and it's got like a horse head, almost looks like a chess piece horse head on there. And yeah, that's my bet for the student grade gouache. It's such a great quality. I don't know how they're able to get such vibrant opaque colors that cheaply. Oh, we have a lot of testimonials for Critique Club. Thank you, guys. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. All right. Annie's Art says, things you buy in Temu are the same thing as Amazon, only at higher prices. I'm sure a lot of these sellers sell on both places. All right. I think I'm caught up. All right. Well, if I missed your question, or if you have questions and you're watching this replay after the stream is finished, you can go ahead and pop them in the comments section below. I'd love it if you left a comment after the live stream is done, just to help the old mighty algorithm. All of us YouTubers, we're slaves to the algorithm. That would be awesome. Leave a thumbs up before you go. Thank you so much for joining me. And for all of you that did World Watercolor Month, congratulations. We made it. We made it to August. And yeah, I think I'm caught up. So I appreciate you guys being here. I know it's kind of a weird time, middle of the day. There's crazy noises going off. Somebody's doing laundry. The noises never end. But thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Happy crafting. Bye. Awkwardly end the live stream.